friends to Finance Working Mama. My name is Heather and thank you so much for joining me today. You know, I was doing a little bit of research locally with friends, family, clients, and I asked them, I said, what you spend on an average in a week for groceries? Going to the store, buying food for the family, and the numbers came back to be around $165 to $200 a week of all the people I surveyed. So I added those up and I did an average. That came out to about $181 a week. Now that did include food for the family, but most importantly, all the other items like household products and personal items. So let's just say $180 was the average of what most people surveyed was spending. Now I look back on what I spent before I developed my different habits, behaviors, building out a pantry, making my meal plan weekly from the pantry, buying things only on sale to fill the pantry, the freezer, and the refrigerator. I spent just on food, not personal products, not household products, but just on food, $135 to $150 a week. And keep in mind, we used to eat out a lot with that number. Then I thought, could I make this less expensive for everyone? Could I come up with a meal plan that for 7 days a week, that fed my family healthy, nourishing, and filling foods for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for around $100? Let me show you how I accomplished that. This is the grocery haul for the week. As you can see, friends, I've done a mixture of things. I've gone to Aldi and I also went to Walmart. I got Rice Krispies and crackers, Nutella, marinara, bread for lots of lunches and breakfasts. Got a pound of ground lean meat and then some stew beef, as well as some turkey for some lunches as well. And that chicken, that's going to give us 2 meals, dinners. Tortillas, cream cheese, Colby Jack, mozzarella, and butter, milk, because my kids drink milk every day, and a whole bag of potatoes. I'm going to use those for a number of meals this week. Eggs for breakfast and for some baking good items. Fruit and cabbage. It was on sale for 29 cents. That wasn't a part of my original plan, but I got it because it was inexpensive. And then 2 packs of those cherry tomatoes. My kids eat them like candy. They love them. They eat them for a snack. And the apple juice, they put those in their lunch boxes in a thermos if they want juice during their lunch, or they can have water. This grocery haul will feed my family for 7 days, 7 breakfasts, 7 lunches, and 7 dinners with a good amount of snacks left for them to eat. Now, I did go to 2 different stores. I did not change my buying behavior for this particular meal plan. I typically always go to Aldi first. Whatever items Aldi does not have, I'll run over across the street to Walmart. This is my little Walmart haul of the items I purchased at Walmart. I did the turkey sausage because it is a healthier meat versus the Italian sausage that the recipe called for, which I will share later in the video. And the salami, the normal brand that Aldi had, they didn't have it in stock. And Barilla, they never have Barilla at Aldi. I always have to buy it at Walmart, but that's a good pasta to have if you're not going to have a meat protein in your dish. And then my expensive ingredient on this trip was the basil. It's almost $2, but it's in a recipe that I felt like I had to have it, and I will share that recipe with you as well. Okay, let's start to talk about what people say is the most important meal of the day, and they say that's breakfast. I can tell you, one of the 4 of this family thinks it's the most important. The rest of us, me as my 2 daughters, we could care less about it. However, in the morning, during the week, my girls need breakfast in their bellies to go to school so they can be productive when they get there. So with all that being said, I did try to plan for 7 days, for 7 breakfasts for 4 people, a good variety and a good mix that everyone would enjoy and be satisfied. And my husband, most importantly, for him to feel satisfied as well. So let's talk about my husband. He likes a heartier breakfast. Some days he'll have a heartier breakfast, some days he does not, and he'll lean on the lighter things, which is a part of this 7-day breakfast meal plan. I bought eggs, and I needed 1 or 2 eggs for some baking items for the meal plan for the week. So the rest was his. He could use them as much as he wanted. He actually did some breakfast burritos. He did just eggs with toast. And he used some of the leftovers. I had some leftover potatoes from one meal, and he put that over a fried egg. It actually looked pretty good, and he did that. So he did that a majority of the week, and then he partaked in the cereal of choice for my family. I chose Rice Krispies. That is a favorite for everybody, especially for my littlest one, Amelia. She likes Rice Krispies with some milk and sometimes some fruit in it. So there was the option of that. And then the other option, which is a favorite of my daughter Ava's, and that's Nutella toast. She loves that, and I think she pretty much ate it, I think, every day, except maybe for a couple, when the other and last breakfast item was the banana bread muffin mix that I found. Yes, I probably could have done it much cheaper, just to use the pantry items of flour and sugar and baking soda and whatnot that I already have. But let's just be honest, not everyone has a full pantry full of those items, and let's just hit the easy button, because that's what we're going to have to do. Planning a meal plan, there's some compromise with in regards to certain things, especially when you're budgeting a meal plan, but let's just not make it painful for us. So I did choose a muffin mix, a banana muffin mix that I thought my family would like. I did not choose the cheapest, and I didn't choose the most expensive. What really narrowed down my price and my choice for the mix was actually the amount of sugar that was in it. The Pillsbury banana bread mix was the lowest in sugar. I think it was 10 grams of sugar per serving. The rest had an enormous amount of sugar, and so I chose the one that had the least amount, and this mix actually was very delicious. I had a banana that was very overripe that needed to be used. I actually added that into the banana bread mix, and it didn't ask or require that. It did say you could do that, and I chose to because I had the available banana ready to be used. So I made banana muffins for the family to have for breakfast or a snack or take for lunch, and that was quite tasty. It was a good mix. I've used a variety of mixes in the past, but by far that's a winner. You guys should try it. And I think it was like $2 and something cents. And since then I have bought it on sale because my daughter Amelia saw it and said, "Mom, you gotta get this. This was really good." So if you see it, I would recommend it. But cereal, fruit, toast, Nutella, eggs, tortillas, muffins. There was a variety to have for 7 days, and indeed it fed the belly and it kept people satisfied. So let's talk about snacks, because we all know we want snacks. We want something sweet, and it's unreasonable, at least in my household, not to have that a part of the meal plan or a part of the grocery budget. I did consider that into this meal plan. My kids, I have found out in the last year that they actually prefer baked goods over the prepackaged snacks that you get at the grocery store. If I make a baked good, which I typically do once a week, they want that in their lunches, and they will have that as a snack when they get home, whether it's brownies or cookies, or for this case, Rice Krispie treats. I haven't made that in a long time. I knew that we would not eat that entire box of Rice Krispies. And I bought butter, a part of the grocery haul, and then I just added some mini marshmallows, a package of those. As we all know, those are pretty inexpensive. And I made a half of a recipe of the Rice Krispie treats, and that made more than enough for my family to eat. We actually had some leftovers at the end of 7 days, but they had that in their lunches. They had it when they came home. They also have the option of the butter crackers, which they really enjoy eating. They can put that with the Nutella or the peanut butter, or my oldest daughter really likes it with some cheese. My youngest just likes to eat them plain. And they have, of course, fruit and veggies. They love snacking on those cherry tomatoes. And of course, the banana muffins, which they had available for them as a snack. They could have it in their lunches, or they can have it for breakfast. So they had a good amount of choices for them to eat and partake in if they wanted a snack. So let's talk about my favorite meal of the day, and that is dinner. That is truly my favorite. I'm not sure why. I could really go without lunch and breakfast, which is not smart. I really don't have a very heavy meal for either one of them typically. I really enjoy dinner. And so when I planned the dinner menu for the 7 days, I made sure that I chose some delicious recipes and some new ones. Some ones from my childhood that my grandmother would make that was really hearty and filling. Most importantly, budget friendly. She grew up in the Great Depression. She survived that. And so when her recipes that she made, majority, they were pretty budget friendly and most importantly, pretty hearty. So I'm going to share with you 3 different recipes that she made as when we were growing up and made for the family. And I think you will find them delicious as well. Friends, I call this roasted Sunday chicken because that's what my grandmother would do. She'd cook a roasted chicken on most Sundays, and it was my absolute favorite dish. I would love to take the chicken meat and dip it in the chicken drippings. It would be the most fantastic taste. And that is what I'm going to share with you today. The seasonings that she used on the chicken that just made it delicious. As you can see, I'm doing some potatoes because I thought, wow, I love the drippings. Wouldn't it be great to have the chicken drippings in the potatoes and provide all that delicious dripping flavor on the potatoes, and then have some crispy potatoes on the long side. So this is what I'm doing here, and I'm using the spices that she used on the chicken. That is seasoned salt, garlic powder, onion powder, and pepper. That is what she consistently used on her roasted chicken. Now, she didn't do the potato thing. She just cooked the whole chicken separately and did potatoes on the side. But I thought this would add just an additional touch since I enjoyed that chicken juice so much. As you can see, I bat scotch. I think that's what you say, bat scotch this chicken. I cut the chicken backbone out of it, flatten it so it would cook more evenly and faster. And she always seasoned the inside as well as the out with the seasoned salt, the garlic powder, the onion powder, and the pepper. So remember those seasonings. I'm sure you have those seasonings in your spice cabinet. They're pretty common and very inexpensive. Make sure that breast is nice and flat. Tuck in those drums to make sure that they don't burn. And she always added a little bit of oil on top of the chicken, and then again applied the same spices, the pepper, seasoned salt, garlic powder, and onion powder. And you want to put this in the oven for 375, and she usually did it at 375 for about 2.5 hours or 2 hours. I don't think she ever used the thermometer, but I did in this case. I put it in 375, and it only actually took my chicken about 1 hour and 20 minutes. So you might want to check it an hour in to see where the temperature is. And then if it needs more, obviously I would probably do 10-minute increments because you want to make sure you don't overcook the chicken. There we go, guys. This was so fantastic. My family loved it. We had some steamed veggies and fruit. Everyone thoroughly enjoyed this dish. That chicken came out fantastic. Okay, friends, this is what my grandmother would call beef and onions. She would say, we're having beef and onions for dinner tonight, kids. And this is what she meant. It was basically beef and onions that she would very slowly cook over a course of pretty much a half a day. But this process took patience. And I can tell you, friends, when she would start cooking this, by the smell, I could be outside and smell this aroma and I'd be like, oh my goodness, she's making beef and onions tonight. And I'd be so excited because this is one of my favorite meals and it's pretty basic ingredients. She would start off with cube stew meat. As you can see, this is about 1.5 pounds, a little bit over 1.5 pounds. And she would use garlic salt. And she would do a nice heavily seasoning of pepper in this, and she would mix it really well. And she would add, this is about a half a cup, probably a half a cup of flour. But what's important is that you make sure that all pieces of meat has been dredged really well and covered with flour. And she would do this for two reasons. One, it would do a great job in searing the beef, which is important because that adds another level of flavor. But she would also say that it developed a beautiful gravy as it cooked down. Now, once you have the meat prepared, then you want to start what I would call the start of the magic. And this is where a lot of the smell that was so yummy comes from. And that's about 4 tablespoons of oil. She used vegetable. I'm using olive because that's what I have. She would dice up a whole onion, sometimes a whole 2 onions, because my grandmother adored onions. She would probably, I don't know, she used to make onion sandwiches with Miracle Whip. And I thought she was a little crazy. But as I've gotten older, she knew what she was doing. Because I eat an onion sandwich too. I'm an onion lover as well. She would season the onion with some with some seasoned salt. And a good douse of pepper as well. And she would mix it up. And this process, guys, you have to be patient. This is sort of a dish where you start it and you let it do its magic, and you do some other things in the kitchen while it is breaking down and sauteing and caramelizing. This process is very important. She'd say that. You've got to get your onions cooked down. You'd also add some garlic powder. She used a lot of seasoned salt, garlic powder, onion powder, and pepper in her cooking. That was her basis of her spices and most of her cooking. See, guys, it's starting to break down a little bit more. Obviously, I reduced the video to expedite the process, but as you can see, it's starting to break down. It's starting to caramelize. Now, this took me, I would say, probably 15 minutes to do. I would, stir it, let it cook, walk away, do something else, come back, stir it again to ensure that, nothing burned. I did this on I started off on high, then I cut it down to medium low so it doesn't burn. This is what you want to see. When it gets to this, the onion has really broken down. It is caramelized. How do you say that? Caramelized. There we go. Caramelized. This is when you know it's time to add the next layer of flavoring. See? Nice and brown. Beautiful color. And look at the bottom of that pan. Oh, all that flavor has been building up as those onions have been cooking. And now you're ready to add the stew beef in the pot. And again, this is another process where you have to be patient and allow it to sear. At this point, I did turn up the stove a little bit more to about medium high to get the pan nice and hot so that stew beef can get seared. And make sure you mix the beef and the onions really well together because you want that onion to cook with that beef and get that flavor into it. She would add a little bit more garlic powder to the beef. Actually, not a little bit. She'd add a good heavy dose of garlic powder. She likes some garlic and some more pepper. Now, I can't remember her ever using fresh garlic. She would always use dried spices, dried ingredients, dried spices and garlic powder, onion powder, seasoned salt. Garlic salt was her go-to. And again, there we go. We're going to add more flavor. More onions, y'all. Yes, she would do a good, healthy douse of minced onion in her dish. You're thinking, oh, you're crazy. More onion, yes. More onion and butter. And then, as you saw, I did add another good douse of garlic powder. If you guys are not an onion fan, this is not a dish for you. But if you are, I'm telling you, you got to add it to the meal plan. This is a good hearty dish for your family, and it pairs so well with mashed potatoes or rice. This is what you're looking for. When it gets to looking like that, you want to add some hot water, and you want to scrape the bottom of that pan to get all that wonderful goodness that has formed over this cooking process. Once you have done that, you want to add more hot water, and you want to make sure the meat is fully covered. And this is where the magic begins. You want to turn it on low to simmer, and you want to cook this all the way down. This took me about 2 hours to to develop this beautiful gravy that will pair very well with rice or potatoes. So this is what it looks like after 2 hours of cooking. All that water has completely cooked down and it has developed this wonderful richness gravy with this beef. And I'm telling you, friends, you pair this with rice, which was one of my grandmother's favorite ways to serve it, or mashed potatoes. This is the finished product. I served it with mashed potatoes because I had a whole bag of potatoes I purchased for this meal plan. And friends, oh, if this wasn't the best treat ever, paired it with a nice light salad, absolutely delicious. This is what my grandmother would call beef and potatoes. Today, we would probably call it potato ground beef skillet or ground beef potato skillet. But this was a menu item that she would have on the table at least once a month because it was inexpensive. Everyone loved it, and it was comfort food. Bottom line, it just was comfort food to me. I have never made it for my family. I'm surprised that I haven't. They very much enjoyed it, so I'm definitely going to have it on a meal plan later on for sure. Now, I start with a pound of ground beef. I did 93% lean ground beef, and you want to season that ground beef with seasoning salt, garlic powder, and pepper. You want to get it nice and brown, and where you don't see any more pink in the ground beef. And then once it's all cooked up and brown, then you want to take all the ground beef out of the pan, and hopefully if you're using 85-20 or 85-15 or 80-20 ground beef, you're going to have some grease left, which is great because you'll need that to brown your potatoes, get your potatoes nice and crisp. As you see, I don't have really any grease or at all. So I'm going to have to put some more olive oil at the bottom of that pan to help those potatoes crisp up. Now, a trick that my grandmother would do to make this dish come together faster during the week is beforehand, she would think about how many potatoes she would want, and then she would boil them whole. And then once they were boiled and completely cooked, she would then take those potatoes and put them in the refrigerator. And they would be ready to go when she was ready to do this dish. So really all you had to do was slice them, get them nice and crispy and heated through, and it was ready to go to the table. So it made getting this dish to the table a lot faster. So I cooked about 5 potatoes and I sliced them. And I want to fill the bottom of that pan with as many of those potatoes as possible because that layer of potatoes is most important because that's the layer that needs to get really nice and crispy. You want to season your potatoes with seasoning, salt, some garlic powder, and then some pepper. After you season them, then you want to add the ground beef back to the pan. Cover those potatoes nice and thoroughly, and then you should have enough potatoes left over to slice more and then do a second layer of potatoes on top. And that is where you want to also season those potatoes with seasoning salt, pepper, and garlic powder. I will have to tell you, friends, this is the second time I'm doing this video and this recipe. The first time I did it, I don't know, it happened. It just deleted or it's gone. I looked everywhere for it and could not find it. So, you know, they say second time's a charm. Luckily, my family enjoyed it. And they were not unhappy with the fact that I made it for the second time in a row, week in a row. So I can definitely say they have enjoyed it for sure. I didn't have the red potatoes when I made the second video. I prefer the red and Yukon potatoes over the russet because I like to keep the skin on the potatoes. It just provides more nutritional value. The russet potato skin is a little bit rough, tougher. So next time I use russet, I'm going to peel them, then cook them whole. It just makes the cutting process much easier. It didn't make the dish taste less delicious. It's just the cutting process that made it a little bit more difficult. Okay, so this is where I'm testing it. I'm like, is it getting brown enough? And yes, it is. It's been cooking for about 7 to 8 minutes, and this is what you want to see. You want to see that golden brown, crispy potato, and that's when you know, I have done it. This is going to be delicious. Now, at this point, you could put it on the table and cook it, but I'm going to toss it around a little bit and then allow the potatoes that were on top to get to the bottom and brown up a little bit as well. You don't have to do that. I just decided that I had time today and I was going to do that this time around. Now, the one thing my grandmother did not do for this dish was add a layer of cheese. When I did this grocery haul, I decided, you know what, I want to put some cheese on this recipe because I think it would be a good addition. Indeed, it was a great addition. It was nice to have that cheesy flavor incorporated in the dish. I served it up. My husband and I had a little side salad with it, and my girls, they chose to have some sliced tomatoes, and carrots, and celery with theirs. This rendered a ton of leftovers for us to have during the week. The first time I cooked it, and now the second time I cook it, it will render plenty of leftovers. Okay, friends, I just showed you 3 meal plan recipes that I got from my grandmother many years ago and were sort of comfort food for me. It was great to share that with my family and see their enjoyment of those 3 items as well. And the next 3, I planned 6 meals for the 7th day, or at least one day in that 7-day period for us to have for leftovers. And we had leftovers. But the other 3 meals I want to share with you, I contemplated about, okay, what ingredients do I have or will have left over that I can use in another recipe. And that's how I came up with basically these 3 meal plans. And the first one being a deep dish pizza. I bought the marinara sauce just for my daughter's lunches. I only used maybe 4, maybe 5 tablespoons of the marinara sauce. So I had a good bottle, 3/4 of a bottle left of that marinara. Now, when I bought the marinara, I didn't buy the cheapest. I didn't buy the most expensive. I bought the middle of the road. And it was because that jar contained less sugar than all of the ones presented in the store. And it had better ingredients and less preservatives. So that's the reason why I chose that particular marinara sauce. And I got it from Aldi, and I wish I would have kept the bottle. But it was like the middle of the road. It was the mid-expensive brand. I think it was like their Select. But I had a lot of that left, so I decided to make a deep dish pizza out of biscuits. And I made the crust out of the biscuits. And then I did a layer of sauce, a layer of vegetables. I chose onions and green peppers. Then I did the turkey sausage that I bought. I put that on top, and then more mozzarella, and then I did another layer of each. Marinara, veggies, the turkey sausage, and then mozzarella. And then I put it in the oven, and it took about 25, in my oven took 25 minutes to bake. I will leave those instructions at the bottom in the description below so you can have it if you decide to try it. It was really quick to put together, and it was very hearty, and the family really enjoyed it. How can you not like deep dish pizza? It was good. So then let's talk about the leftover chicken I had. I had about 2.5 cups of that left over. And so I decided to use a recipe that I found out of my favorite $10 dinner cookbook. And there was like a garden salad where she had chopped salami and chopped chicken with some mozzarella. That was great. As you know, I like a salad during the week because it's quick, it's healthy, as well as very portable when you need to go somewhere in the evening with kids' activities. My husband and I just did olive oil and vinegar with some salt and pepper, and the girls, they don't like dressing, so they ate theirs without it. Last but not least, I had leftover pasta that needed to be used, and I found a recipe again in my book, $10 Dinners, and it doesn't have any animal protein. It is protein pasta and veggies. And I wondered if it was going to be filling. So let me show you how I make that. Friends, you call this pasta with no cooked tomato sauce. You first want to start with chopping The basil, I used the entire package of basil that I purchased in the grocery haul for this recipe. And then I took 4 large Roma tomatoes, I seeded them and I chopped them up, I diced them up. Then I took 2, actually the recipe calls for 2, I did 3, 3 green onions finely chopped. Then I add 1/3 of a cup of olive oil, 2 teaspoons of balsamic vinegar, a zest, they say 1 teaspoon lemon zest, but I just zest it into my heart desires because I love lemon zest in a pasta recipe. Then you also want to take 1 garlic clove and smash it. The recipe also calls for 1 teaspoon of crushed pepper. I just did a couple douses because my children were eating this. And then you want to do salt and pepper to taste. Now, this is where the magic begins. You want to stir it up really well, make sure all of the ingredients are well incorporated. Then you want to take the back of your spoon and you want to smash the tomatoes against the side. Now, I think the reason why they want you to do this is because it does develop just a little bit of a sauce. So you do that, and then you want to set this dish aside for 30 minutes at least. You want to take the hot pasta, put it directly on top, and let it sit for 1 minute. After 1 minute, you can stir it and plate it up. It also calls for a little bit of grated Parmesan. They say 1/4 of a cup of Parmesan. I say if you have Parm, just put as much cheese on it as you wish. This was a really hearty recipe with no meat protein. I used the protein pasta that I bought in the grocery haul to make this dish. It was definitely a family favorite, and I will be making this in the future. Okay, friends, you were probably saying, she has done breakfast, she has done dinner, but how about lunches? Well, trust me when I tell you, my husband and I had plenty of options when it came to lunch because we utilized the leftovers from the dinners that I have planned for the week. And we also, if we want something really quick and don't have to reheat, we had plenty of deli meat and bread to make a sandwich. Now for my kids, it's a little different. They need variety, and they also need different items to be more portable and not so dependent about getting heated up. So their first choice is their princess soup, as they call it. It's Campbell's soup. They can have this one time during the week. 1 can is split up between the both of them. I charge their thermoses and pair it with fruits and veggies and a sweet treat. And that's a yummy, warm chicken noodle soup that they enjoy. I think the reason why they only eat that particular canned soup is one, I think they like the texture of the pasta. And all the other pastas that are in, or the noodles that are in the chicken noodle soups are, I guess, too mushy for them. So this is the perfect texture for both of them. And of course, it's a tad more expensive because it has Disney written over it. But either way, they enjoy it. And it's less than $1 for both of them. So I think that's a pretty good deal when it comes to a kid's lunch. They also have a choice of a turkey cream cheese roll up. They could have that 3 or 4 times during the week. I have plenty of the ingredients to make that for them. And that's typically a favorite of theirs. I pair that with a veggie and a fruit. And then, as we all love, I call it a charcuterie lunch. They enjoy the salami and cheese with crackers and fruit and veggies. Now my daughter, Amelia, likes, instead of the cube cheese, she would prefer celery stuffed with cream cheese. So I make that for her. But they can have that 3 times as a choice, at least 3 times during the week as well. Then we have pasta. My kids love pasta. I choose the Barilla pasta mainly because it is a protein-based pasta. It has protein in it for them, and that way I feel good that they're getting the amount of protein that they need. It's more nutritious than the regular just white floured pasta or other pasta choices. But my oldest daughter likes to have that with butter. My youngest likes to have it with a little bit of marinara. I charge their thermoses, put that hot pasta in there, and it's warm and perfect for them when they eat their lunch. I pair that with fruit and veggies with a sweet treat, and they could have that 2 more times during the week if they choose. Now that is more than enough for them to have for 7 days and a good variety and good mix. All right, friends, let's talk about the math in reference to this meal plan and during the month. My goal was to only spend $100 or around $100 to do 7 days with 3 meals a day. And I did accomplish that. I spent about $101 and some change. I did that between going to 2 different stores. If I would have just stuck to Walmart, it would have been about $112 and some change. And that was just groceries. I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I did a survey amongst friends and family and clients, and that average came out to about $181 a week, and that did include household products as well as personal items. Now, to be fair to that, if I divide what my monthly expense would, and I just said $100 because mine a month for those items is between $85 to $95. If I would add $25 to that grocery spend of $101, that's $126 that I would spend a week, which the savings between the two would be about $220 a month, which can add up. Let's see, it could add up in a year's time about $2,600. Now, many of you say, well, okay, is it realistic to be able to keep to a $100 budget for groceries during the course of every week and during the month? Maybe not. However, that's some people's reality, and they have to. But if you are allowed flexibility, that's wonderful. But think about if you did that twice a month. That is an annual savings, friends, of $1,300. Now, that's significant numbers. Whether it's $2,000 or $1,300, it's still dollars that are better spent in a savings account or maybe spent somewhere else that's needed for an emergency or to fix something. So I guess the thought process is maybe we should spend a little bit more time planning what we're going to eat and be more thoughtful in that process. And that helps save money in our grocery personal budgets for our household. Now, I read an article in January. It came out the end of January. USA Today did an article about how much Americans were spending nationally all over the country on a weekly basis. And the average of that weekly grocery spend was about $270. It didn't specify if it was just food or a mix of food, personal items, and household products. I'm assuming it did include that because it's groceries. You can buy it at a grocery store. And good gracious, if that didn't include those items, that's a lot of money on groceries each week. So I'm thinking that it does include household items and personal goods as well. And that sort of was a bit of alarming. California was the highest at $398 a week that they spend on groceries. That is a lot. The second state that spent was $390 was Nevada. The lowest area of the country that only spent an average of $240 was the Midwest. So the average came out to about $270 a week. That was the national American average of grocery spending during the course of a week. Now, friends, I am so thankful that I do not have to spend that much money on groceries and items to support my family. That, to me, is an alarming number. And we are fortunate here in the state that I live in. Apparently, our food pricing is moderately priced compared to California and Nevada and other states. So I'm thankful for that. However, it goes back to planning. Planning is the important factor here. Take the time. It only took me 25 minutes to put this meal plan together. And I started with first, what are things that my grandmother would make? Because I always knew that she was cost conscious about what she was purchasing and how she made it. And I knew it was always really good because those are the things that I most enjoyed eating at my grandmother's house, were the things that I showed you during this video, those 3 recipes. And then I started with that basis, and then I looked at what I had left over from the ingredients and could I incorporate those into other recipes. And then it's been from there. It really didn't take me much time at all. And the one thing that I can say that I'm happy to do for everyone that is watching this video is the fact that I've done the work. I put the work in. And hopefully you will find some of these recipes or maybe this meal plan to be satisfying enough for you to do with your family. So I've done the work. We'll share the recipes. I've shown you the recipes that I used during the week, and I will list the grocery items that I purchased for this and the recipes in the description below. Friends, I hope that this meal plan is an inspiration for you, especially during those weeks when you're too tired to meal plan. You have a go-to to develop one for your family in weeks or months to come. Would love to know your comments of any recipes that you've tried, what your thoughts are on them and which ones you liked the best. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. And if you liked it, give me a thumbs up. Thank you so much for joining me today. And make sure you stay safe and most importantly, stay encouraged.